Hey guys, this is Courtney from Will's Bloom, and this is the AstroBiz podcast where we talk about astrology and business. And Will's Bloom is the parent of this podcast, and it's all about intentionally designing our life and business with the cosmos. Today's podcast guest is one of my best friends, Kim, and she has such amazing insight all about using our intuition within our business and how we can know if we're relying on our intuition and how we will feel. It's such a great episode. I really hope that you guys enjoy it. But before we get started, I just wanted to let you know that her handles have all been updated. So her URL, the name of her company, it's all updated now to Intentionally Intuitive. So when you want to go find her numerology readings, just search on YouTube Intentionally Intuitive, and same thing on Instagram. And of course, I'm going to be putting all of her links in the description of this podcast. So you can find her website there and everything. Thank you guys so much, and I hope you enjoy. Hey guys, today we have my really good friend Kim from the Divine Doe on the podcast. She is a spiritual mentor for intuitive living, and she is a total badass, you guys. She's been my number one rock when it comes to being in the spiritual world and starting a business and really believing in myself. And she just is able to hold a higher vision for her clients and what they're able to achieve. So she's done that for me. She's given me so many spiritual downloads and readings, and has actually predicted things that have come true in my life. Like, she's just been such a wonderful friend to have in my back pocket. And I'm so grateful for her. And I'm so excited to share her with you guys today. Kim, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me, Courtney. I'm super excited.
So I want to hear your story. How did you start the Divine Doe, and what is the Divine Doe?
Yeah, sure. So I'll give you the story first. So basically, for the last, this is going to date myself. I'm going to give you my age basically, but for like the last 20 years, I have been in a corporate environment and human resources. And so basically, my job has been helping to run and make sure that companies run smoothly, multi-million dollar companies. And so that's really been my job, my career for the majority of my life. And so in 2016, I moved to a really, really small town. I mean, there was more deer than people. And that's when I sort of started getting into the spiritual side of things. I mean, I've always been spiritual, but it was starting in 2016. I got into photography, and that was a really good opportunity for sort of intuitive healing. And that's where I started my first business, quote unquote. But it wasn't until 2018 that I really went through a major transformation with a huge spiritual awakening, just Kundalini rising, Kundalini awakening, just the whole gamut. And it's just really, it was definitely where I opened up to my innate gifts. And that's really where I started to open up to the channeling and using tarot, and really starting to come into the intuitive side, to really like start to work in partnership with spirit, as opposed to being more ego driven, I guess. And so once I sort of went through that took like about a year and a half of that awakening. Then I started to really get the calling. I think it was like in I guess it was like in 2019, I really started getting the calling to open my own business and serve clients in this way. And yeah, I fought it for like a year. I fought it really, really hard because I was so used to and ingrained in that corporate environment and that sort of 3D world. And so with your coaching and coaching of other friends, and again, following my intuition and really following the guidance of my spirit guides, I really just like leapt in headfirst into starting to offer the gifts that I knew I was kind of like, it's like I felt I found my calling after all this time. And so I opened the Divine Doe, and basically what the Divine Doe is, I had a dream that came through it was an image of a deer with a crown on the top of her head. And so that's kind of like, and like my connection with the animal world and all that really kind of like brought that to fruition. And so I knew I wanted to, I was working with tarot really quite a bit. So I knew I wanted to offer that to clients along with the channeling. And then late 2019, I had just a random class show up for numerology. And I've learned that there's no coincidences. That's so true because that course came up. I took the course. It was kind of like a remembering. And I was like, wow, it's like I've done this in previous lifetimes or something. And so I took the course and then I started doing my YouTube channel in late 2019. And I was doing something completely different than what I'm doing now. But I had the vision to start offering numerology centered readings that were tarot driven. And so I started doing that and it sort of all took off from there. But so, really, my goal, what the Divine Doe encompasses, is to really help people to come back to themselves, to really start to follow their intuition as their compass, and then allow for the ego, sort of that physical side, the mind, to be the logistics. And so, numerology, tarot, channeling, those are all divination tools that kind of help me and help others to come back and start to learn to trust and utilize their intuition. And so it's really my platform and what I'm most passionate about. So, yeah.
Yes, you guys, she has the best videos. I would go check her out on YouTube, The Divine Doe. If you know your life path number, then what she does is she pulls tarot cards and channels for each of those life path numbers. And so you can see what your message is for that period of time or whenever you find a video because they're not really dated. So it's just like whenever you are called to that message, it will work for you and work through you. And I love that you specifically are helping people with their intuition because that's what you did for me. I mean, I didn't even pick up an oracle deck until you sent one to me. Like, I didn't even know what they were, what they are about. I thought they looked funny. Like, when I went into like the spiritual stores with the crystals and stuff, I was like, what are those? And I just never even explored them. And now they become such a staple for tapping into my intuition and making decisions daily in my business. So, I just want to say thank you so much for putting me on this path and helping me by giving me so many tools. So, how can other people start to use more of their intuition in their business and in their life?
Yeah, I mean, it's really sort of like individually based. I mean, it's just a matter of learning to, I mean, we all have it. You have every single person has felt their intuition at some point. It's that feeling within over getting into your head and over analyzing and overthinking it. And so it's really that learning to trust it because from the very beginning of our lives, people external to us have told us, how to be, what to do, what success means, all of these things. And so we've constantly been conditioned to look to the external for our guidance. And so the problem with that is that, and again, we've all been through it, but it's like, the problem with that is that we are taking advice or taking our leadership from somebody else's story. And so it's like, really, for me, what my guides gave me, and again, it's going to be different for everybody, how they kind of tap into that, but it's like learning to use it and then learning to trust it. But for me, oracle cards and the pendulum and tarot were all really like the things that really got me going, like really super focused in it. But I have a really big connection with nature as well, and I would notice that when I was on my own out in nature, I just felt that connection and answers would sort of come in, and then I would question it in my mind, that sort of thing. But it's really just that when you get that initial feeling, learning to honor it and trust it and follow that guidance and just see where it takes you. And then you'll start to see that guidance will more than likely be 100% accurate, as opposed to the external advice or guidance that you receive. I mean, those things are great because they're resources and they help you on your way. But it's like, ultimately, we need to learn to take the guidance and the direction from our higher self, our higher consciousness. So, yeah.
Yes, and that is such an important thing because I think that by all means and by all external standards and beliefs, I should have stayed in my English teaching business. Like, that is the thing that makes sense. That's the logical way. People accepted it. They were all on board. And then I felt, a different calling and I wasn't even sure what that was. And that's the thing about intuition is it gets stronger when you listen to it, but it doesn't always speak very clearly. Like, it kind of gives you breadcrumbs. And it's like, if you really trust and you really have faith, it will slowly unveil itself and become something better. but it takes a lot of faith when you only have like a little piece of the picture to go off of, and it's asking you to like throw away something that you feel like is starting to pick up or starting to work. And that was really something that Kim helped me move through. And if it weren't for her, I don't think that I would have stepped into that role. And I'm just so glad that you did, because I feel like all of the pieces have started to fall together, and it feels really amazing and so aligned to do this type of work. And I love to do my English work, but this is so much more aligned with me that it gives me energy. And it's just such a gift to start to listen to your intuition. So I would love for you to tell me a story of a time when, maybe the external reality said to do one thing, but then your intuition said to do another, and you listened to the intuition.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I just want to like mention something too that I think is really, really important, or at least from my experience. I have found that when we listen to our intuition, like our soul came here for growth, expansion, adventure. It's the ego that's here for the comfort and the stability and the structure and to keep us quote unquote safe. And so it's like, what you'll find as you start to listen to your intuition, in most cases, what I found is that your soul is going to push you so far outside your comfort zone that it will scare the crud out of you. So it's like, but you just have to, again, and that's why it's so hard to trust it sometimes, because it's like, you're like, how could that possibly be right? Because that I don't feel comfortable doing this, But it's like, once you take the leap and you dive into it, you're like, wow, this feels really, really good. And this feels so in line with my purpose. And so we just have to like get out of that mindset of everything we do should feel really, really comfortable and safe, because that's, your soul didn't come here for that. Basically, our souls came here for much, much more. And like where our ego wants to define us and confine us, our soul is like pushing us to do more and more and more. So I think that's really important. But a really good example for me, and you know about this example because it was such a big pivotal point for me. So when I moved to the small town that I was referring to, I was trying to find work like that I was used to, but it was a really small town and there was just no corporate environment. And so I was out of work for many years but constantly trying to find employment. And so we moved back to the Front Range. I live in Colorado. And so we moved back to the Front Range of Boulder. And I was like, oh, I won't have a problem finding a job. It's going to be great, whatever. I can get back into what I'm used to. But Spirit had another plan. Anyway, and so I was applying for these jobs. I went on some great interviews. I think it was in January of 2019. I had an interview in a corporate environment that was for, a six-figure job, super stable, just like it was like for an executive level. So it was like the epitome of what somebody in HR would want in their career focus, right? So I went for the interview, but they didn't have the opportunity, like it wasn't a fit. And so I ended up pitching them an idea that I had for the job to like make it even better. They loved it, but they didn't have the funds to do it at that point in time. And so anyway, it didn't work out. Fast forward like 6 months, I think it was. And at this point, it was coming in really, really strongly. I had opened up the Divine Dough. I had had some clients. I got that taste of like what it felt like to do this work, to follow my passion and my purpose. And it was so incredible, like to have the response from clients and just to know that this is my gift, right? Well, I was like out shooting one day, photography, and I was coming back down from the mountain. Yeah, I want to make that very clear. So I was coming back down the mountain and I got a random phone call, and it was the place that I had interviewed for 6 months prior, and they didn't even need to re-interview me or anything. They offered me the job on the spot. And it was like amazing benefits, work from home, like six figures. I could not have asked for a more perfect job. And in that moment, as she was giving me the offer, I felt so strongly that there was no way I could give up the Divine Dough, like give up my business to go to do this executive level corporate job. There was just no way. And so in that moment, I followed my intuition. It was the hardest thing because I wasn't making any money with Divine Dough. I didn't really have like stable clients, all that stuff. And so I was definitely taking a leap of faith. And I told her I wasn't interested, which was really, really difficult. But after I did that, I felt so free and like enlightened. It was just an amazing, amazing feeling for following my intuition and following that inner guidance. But it was still like a little difficult because it was like I had to go home and tell my husband, like, hey, I turned down this 6-figure job that would be super stable and all this stuff. And just seeing kind of the initial disappointment on his face was really hard. But I still knew that I'd done the right thing. Like there was no doubt. And so that, and I'm so glad I did. Like there's nothing else I'd rather be doing at this point in my life. And so I'm really glad. I would not have been happy. I would have been stable, but I would not have been happy. And so that's an example of I would have followed my 3D conditioning of like, I need to do what's going to be safe. I would be safe, but I would not be fulfilled and happy. So yeah.
What's funny is that you have a Capricorn sun, which is very much about leaning into that structure, that safety, that management role, and having everything planned for the future and having all of your ducks in a row. And then you have an Aquarius moon, which is very much a different energy. It's really living in the new age. It's tapping into your soul and also what the collective needs and being different. Like you would need to pursue something that's honestly way different than what other people typically are doing in order to actually feel emotionally fulfilled. But then it's funny because it's kind of almost at odds with the other side of yourself that desires that structure and that stability. And so at the end of the day, you went with your moon, which is the most important thing to actually feel balanced and to feel fulfilled. And it's like you can still incorporate your Capricorn sun, but in a way that's channeled through this new business. And Kim and I have talked about this a lot because we've been on a lot through our journey together over the years. And I think that we both believe that when you want to commit to something, that the universe kind of gives you a faith test. Like, do you really want this? It's hard enough to listen to your intuition, but they do, like, I feel like the universe does throw in a little curveball to say, okay, how committed are you to this? And it's like upon that commitment, once you make it and once you go through that little trial, that's a little bit challenging, then you're able to grow into a newer, more expanded version of your business and of yourself. And that's a very good example for you. It's kind of like dangling the carrot of, oh, you want this job, you've been looking for this for a long time, and then it's like, oh, it's right there. But then I would have to give up, what my intuition is telling me to do. And so that's a huge test. For me, and Kim knows my brother, for me, it was my brother, who is just like so close to me. I love him so, so much. He was telling me that he didn't think I could make any money from Willow's Bloom. And that really affected me. That really hurt me. And I could have easily like let that get to me. I don't know if that was, the only test, but I could have definitely made that break me in a way and believe what he had to say and pull back or doubt myself. But instead it was like, I'm going to prove that you're wrong because I know that this is something that I feel called to do. So I think that if anyone's out there listening, you might receive these tests, and whatever you're feeling deep down in your gut, that is the way to go. And so how can you help people, I guess, become more in tune with that? Because I think it can be hard to separate your emotions from your intuition, from your comfort zone. Like, oh, that feels uncomfortable, so that feels wrong. Like that could be mistaken for having an intuition that it's not right for you. So do you have any guidance about how to separate these things so people really know when they're facing that test what decision to make?
Again, it's going to be really particular for each person because I really feel like mistakes are just opportunities for redirection. You know what I mean? So it's like, but for me, it's like I don't know. It was like I had this vision, right? Like, and I mean, I had this like idea of what I wanted. And I really feel like our visions and our ideas are unique to us. Like they're not coming into other people, they're coming into us. So it's like, what action do we take to do, to move forward? And what do we do with that inspiration, right? If we don't do anything, then nothing happens. If we do something, then we have to believe in that vision, right? No matter where the tests come in really are like, holding on to that vision. I think we talked about this before, like it's your egg, right? It's your egg. Like other people are not going to understand it necessarily at first because it's not their egg to protect. It's not their vision. And so you will have, judgments from other people. You will have people who are going to test you and push you, who are really your greatest teachers, to say, is this what you really want? And ultimately, that's what it comes down to. It's learning to use your own discernment between what are other people telling me that I want and what do I actually want. And it's like to really be able to sit with that. And a lot of times, like, it's not, using your intuition can be really difficult at first because we've been so conditioned to use our 3D mind and to really overthink things and overanalyze things and to come up with decisions. And then when we can't come up with a decision through our mind, we seek the external and we ask somebody else, what should I do? Right. And so then that leads to a whole plethora of other things. But when we go within, and this, like I said, this takes time because we have years and years of that conditioning to do the opposite. And so when we get those hits, we get those visions, it's just a matter of really sitting with that, maybe journaling about it and seeing how can you see this for your future? And does it excite you? Because if it's your purpose, if it's purpose driven, it's going to excite you, but it might be a little scary too. It's not like it's going to terrify you and only terrify you, right? It might be terrifying at first. Like I said, I fought this for a year, but that was just because I was so in my head about it. But it's like, you're still going to feel a level of passion for it. You're going to feel that excitement because your soul is never going to lead you astray. It is always going to be leading you towards your highest good, your highest purpose. And so again, whether that scares the bejeebers out of you or not. And so it's really just a matter of leaning into it and trying to quiet the outside noise. Like you had mentioned your brother, and it's like, he's coming at that from his perspective. He's not coming from that from your vision and your perspective, right? And so it's like being able to, which I think you did really beautifully, it's like being able to quiet, no matter how much you love the people who've got the noise coming at you, being able to quiet that and just really go within and ask yourself, what do I want? And is this resonating with me? And so again, it just really comes down to discernment and just honoring that feeling and just testing it out, like trying it, right? Like, what if I follow my intuition this time? What if I just see what happens? Because, you can always pivot and change direction. It's not like you make a decision and you're stuck to that. There may be consequences to that, but you would overcome those. And so it's really like there's not a set way to start following your intuition. It's really comes back to your own discernment and intuition. So it's just a matter of what you feel and honoring what you feel. And as you start to do that, like when I started first doing this, it was like it took time, right? But it's like now that is my go-to. It's like I will immediately check in with myself before I listen to the outside noise. I will take the external as resources, but I will 100%. And I've had people give me opinions and say, you should do this, you should do this. And the very first thing I do when I get that is go within and see, how do I feel about this? How does this resonate for me? And then that's my compass. And then I take the rest as it comes. But it's not something that happens overnight. It's definitely something you have to kind of like flex that muscle, work with it, create that sort of habit because we've been so conditioned to do the opposite. So yeah, it's just a work in progress, and to be really kind and compassionate with yourself and not shame yourself if you have to ask somebody else for advice or what you should do, and then recognize it and be aware of it and be like, maybe next time, first I'll come back to myself and go within first and see what kind of feedback I get, and then just kind of work with it and move through it.
Yeah, and I love the word discernment. Like that has become my favorite word this year because it's such a powerful word. It gives you so much power because you are the one who is making the decisions and in your highest interest. And like you said, it's a muscle. So the more that you practice discernment, the stronger that muscle gets. And it becomes a lot easier to commit to something when you've gone through these layers of tests or anything where you feel like, you're moving through this, even if it's just you and your own mindset, like moving through that self-doubt. When you show up and you recommit every single time and you use your discernment to recommit every single time that this is the path that you're on, that commitment becomes a lot stronger. And then you believe in yourself more. And then you actually attract more of the abundance and more of the growth that you're looking for because of your ability to stand firm in your ground and in your knowingness that this is the right path for you. So it's almost like a blessing when you receive these kind of hiccups or moments of self-doubt because you're able to really work through them and become empowered by them actually in the long run. So thank you so much for sharing some of that. So what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned through owning your own business?
Yeah, so I think I had mentioned this before, but it's kind of that idea that there are no mistakes, only redirections. And it's like, as a Capricorn life path 4, it's like I definitely have that perfectionist vein, right? Like I definitely want things to be, organized and perfect and all of that stuff. And so it was kind of like when I was first starting this business, and I think that's why it scared me so much, because there's so much ambiguity. It's like when I was starting this business, I was really struggling with like not having that level of control. And so it was kind of like I had to learn to really chill on being a perfectionist and understanding that there is, perfection can be stifling and it really can confine you. So it's kind of like with entrepreneurship, it's like you have to allow things and kind of surrender in some ways to that perfectionist attitude. And like I just sort of face the punches as they come up and like overcome them. And through that, you learn, right? So again, I don't feel like there's like mistakes or anything like that. And so, but definitely it was like, to learn to roll with the punches and yeah, just not be so focused on this has to be perfect before I launch it or before I, promote it or whatever. Like, because what I found is, you know, even after I launched, I was like, okay, like it's wonderful, it's great, it's perfect. But it's evolved since then so much, so it's kind of like you have to allow yourself the freedom of that evolution, because like especially when you're first starting out with that vision, a lot of times our guides and our higher self they don't give us every single step up front. And so you have to allow for that movement and that evolution as you continue to move forward. And so really it's like, and that can be difficult coming from a corporate world where, drive and perfectionism is really important in a sense. But yeah, so that's probably been the biggest, is just releasing some of that level of control while still, maintaining my professionalism and all that, but just not feeling like everything needs to be to a T perfect before I launch or, whatever. And just understanding that there will be hiccups and challenges to overcome. But again, that allows for that expansion and growth.
Yes. Oh, I'm so glad that you mentioned perfectionism because that's a huge one. And especially for people who are making that transition from the workplace to entrepreneurship, it's a big hurdle and a big lesson to learn that that's not going to be part of your journey for very long if you want to succeed, because
Yeah.
growth will be so slow if everything has to be perfect before you launch it, because I'm telling you, it's not going to be. You're always going to have hiccups, just like you said. You can't possibly know everything and anticipate everything that could go wrong. So you're going
Mhm.
to come up against things being subpar, things being B minus. And guys, you just got to hit publish, even if it's B minus. You just got to launch, even if it's not the perfect thing that you have in your mind. Because, like Kim said, over time you evolve and you grow and you get the tools that you need over time and the help that you need to bring that vision to life. And there are people that are still going to want what you have, the transformation that you have, because they feel that you're energetically in alignment with them. Like, you don't need to be this perfect person and have this perfect launch and this perfect website in order to attract people who resonate with you. And I think that people just want to see themselves in you. So when you're just completely and totally yourself, that's really all you need to be in order to attract the clients of your dreams, because you'll find the like-minded people. They'll just kind of come to you like a moth to a light.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so what is a tool, a software, or anything that you use in your business right now that you just think has been the best investment for you?
Yeah, so for me, because I'm only like not even a year into this. And so it's kind of like for me, what has been really beneficial is investing in myself up front, right? So many people, this is not, just for entrepreneurs, like so many humans have that lack mindset or that poverty consciousness. And it's like, well, if I don't, you know, I don't know, we're so quick to not invest in ourselves. And I think when it comes to our business, it's almost mandatory. Like you really need to be able to commit to that level, because for me it was the classes. So it was kind of like, once I came through this huge transition, this huge spiritual awakening that has moved me into this entrepreneurship, that's when I started seeking out other people for their wisdom to help me along the resources, right? And so it was like I ended up taking the very first thing I did was took a business course. And the reason for that is because being that Capricorn and needing that stability, and there's again so much ambiguity in entrepreneurship, I needed to feel like I had some kind of foundation, right? Like I already had the corporate world foundation and running businesses that way, but it was like I needed to hear it from somebody who's already done it. And so, and which is great when it comes to resources and courses and classes, because you're hearing from somebody who's already sort of paved their own way, and you can pull from that using your discernment what works for you and what doesn't. And so for me, it's been the class, the courses, the trainings, that sort of thing, and the continued education. And so, like I said, it's like what I find is that spirit will present you with opportunities, and it's up to you what you do with them. So it was like that numerology course when that came in. I mean, I think it was like $300 for like a couple of modules, and I was just like, geez, that's really expensive, but it was calling to me so strongly. I was like, there's a reason why this is calling to me. And at that point, I wasn't even really into numerology, knew really nothing about it. And it was not in my sort of scope. And so I took the course. I went ahead and I was like, this is coming up for a reason. So I took the course and it's changed the game for me. So it's like, so again, it's just kind of being open to what spirit gives you, the guidance to say, hey, we're sending you this for a reason. And then having like the wherewithal to say, you know what, I'm going to invest in myself in this. There's a reason, even though it's got a high price tag, the return of investment will be so worth it. And so, yeah, that's definitely been my biggest thing at this point. I'm sure it will evolve, but that would be my biggest thing.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you said that, because I think that that's what is going to make you have so much more to offer to other people. Like the more that you invest in yourself and your own personal growth, the more that you have to give to your clients. And the more confident you feel too, which is a really big factor in being able to sell and really feeling like, oh, I didn't just make all this up myself, and I don't really know where this is coming from. It's like, I know that this is my intuition, my guidance, and my method, but I also have this other foundation, this background of how other people do it. And I've kind of interweaved them both. So I feel like it's such a strong offering. And then you can really stand in your power in that. And you won't always know that it's like you'll feel drawn to an investment. For example, like I'd feel drawn to a course, but I would feel a lot of hesitation. If it's or $850, I'm going to have, some mulling over in my mind before I press buy. Like it's not always going to be an immediate, yes, I want this.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though your soul feels like it will help it on the evolution, it is a lot of money. And so sometimes the process of committing to that and really valuing it takes time. And so I just want to say, if you don't initially feel like it's a yes right away, it's not because it's not a yes. It's probably because that's a big commitment and a big price tag. And just learning how to, again, use your discernment between the two of, if you feel called to something, but it's kind of expensive, please do it. Like, please find the way to make the money and live in more of that abundance mindset, because you're feeling called to it for a reason, and the money can always come back to you. And what's funny is that course will probably help you get the money come back to you even quicker.
Yeah.
So I just want to encourage everyone to follow that intuition,
And
like we've been talking about.
absolutely. And I find too that like it's again been my experience that like when I'm hesitant on something, if I don't do it, spirit keeps sending it to me. So it's not like you're going to miss the opportunity, but it's like if something keeps coming up for you, there is a reason. And so pay attention to that. And then it's like, like our higher consciousness, our soul is not concerned about a price tag, right? It's like, this is what you need. This is what's best for you. So I'm going to keep sending it to you. So it's a matter of, and they'll be patient. Your higher consciousness, your spirit guides will be patient if it takes you a year or 3 years to commit to it. But really, it's like, for me, what I found is like, there's never been something that I've felt I should say yes to and said yes to it that has been a waste of money or a waste of investment. And so that may happen, but at this point, not yet. So, but yeah, great point, Courtney.
Yeah, exactly. It really isn't a waste if you show up and you do the work, because if you're feeling called to it, there is something there for you. And that doesn't mean that everything is going to be there for you and all of the lessons are, right on the money. It just means that something, it could be even just one pivotal piece, could change your mindset and then forever affect the way that you live your life. And so, again, listen to that calling, listen to that intuition, and like Kim said, don't worry so much about missing the call, because I'm sure it will come back up for you. So, talking about patience, I know that you've been growing your YouTube channel. Kim just hit how many subscribers? Is it over 100
Yeah,
now?
I'm at like 113 now.
Yay, 113. That's amazing. I'm so excited for you. Her videos are so amazing. So I hope that you guys go check them out, because you'll find that they actually will align with things happening in your life. So they're really great divination tools and just alignment tools with like you and your higher self. So anyway, talking about patience, I know that YouTube takes time to grow an audience, and putting yourself out there on YouTube is already a hard enough task. People are seeing you, you're editing videos and looking at yourself constantly. It's a lot to work through emotionally. So I was hoping that you could talk to us a little bit about your experience with that and how to overcome the challenge of being patient while things grow.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, this is such a great question because it's definitely, I mean, some people, open a business and things take off and they're just whatever, they don't have to wait for that delayed gratification. But, and we're so used to instant gratification. So it's like, but the reality is most businesses are going to take a year or 2 years to have a major return on investment, to see some kind of gratification. I mean, you have to kind of like, people have to learn to trust you, and like you have to continue to get your message out there. And it is slow as molasses. It can feel overwhelming sometimes. And so with YouTube, especially, what's funny about that is, as a photographer, like I love being behind the camera. I hate being in front of the camera. It was like so, and you and my other friend Kristen were constantly like, you need to like be in front of the camera for your videos. Don't just use your hands. People need to like see you and like get to learn to trust you and that sort of thing. And I was like, no. But finally, I was like, you know what? This keeps coming in for a reason. I'm going to go ahead and do it. That's one of those outside my comfort zone things. But I feel like that's really paid off. And I do feel like it's given people an opportunity to like get to know me and my personality. So that was a really big hurdle for me, being able to just put myself in front of the camera. And just, again, not needing it to be perfect. I mean, there's times I'll put videos out and it's like, I'm clearing my throat, or like the lighting changes or whatever. But it's like, for me, it's become more about like getting the message out than trying to like make it perfect. And so with YouTube, it's like, with Instagram, there's certain techniques that you can do to kind of up your following and that sort of thing. But it's really been like the lesson that YouTube has been for me, especially, has been quality over quantity. And so it's like, I know that the people who are following me on YouTube are following me because they resonate with my message. And so I really need to keep coming back to that, because if I'm like, I don't have 5 million followers on YouTube, and I get too caught up in the numbers, then I'm losing sight of like what my message is and what my purpose is of even doing a YouTube channel. And so, yeah, it's just kind of like learning to be really consistent. Like with YouTube, it was like, what I found worked for me was just being like super consistent, like making sure that I'm putting, that people can rely on when they're going to see a video from me, kind of keeping the message clear of like what I'm trying to put out there, and just like understanding, because it took me forever. I mean, I think I launched my first YouTube video in like September of last year. And it's like, I'm just hitting 100. And it's like, but I'm so grateful and thankful for those followers, because like I said, I really feel like it's quality over quantity. And so, yeah, it's just kind of like learning to understand that gratification will take time. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to necessarily happen right away. And honestly, I feel like if I would have gotten, 1,000 subscribers on YouTube within the first week or 2 weeks, it probably wouldn't have been like, you really have to commit, right? And so it's like, but if there's that instant gratification, it's like you don't have to commit as much. It's kind of like, oh, this is too easy. But it's kind of like, with that slower, gradual process, you become more and more invested in it and kind of see that it's not a numbers game necessarily, that there's more to it. And so just really focusing on the service you're providing, and then that comes through. And one thing I really want to mention too is like, when you get really focused on the numbers, then you can start putting things out that don't resonate with you. And so again, it comes back to the intuition. Now you're putting stuff out that you just want to get followers for. So you're like, let me just shove this out there. But that, if you're making videos about things that you don't care about, that's going to come through, and that your lack of authenticity. And so it's kind of like, again, understanding that just keep going, right? Just keep pushing, just keep going. And it's kind of like the same thing with getting clients. It takes time because people have to trust you, trust what you're putting out there, resonate with you, that sort of thing. And so that takes time. But it's like once it continues to grow and, they'll get some momentum. So it's just, yeah, being patient. Plus, I can say for a Life Path 4, like patience is one of our like life lessons. It's something we continually have to like focus on because we're meant to do each step individually so that we fully understand and can integrate those steps so that we can mentor and teach others. And so again, same thing I feel like for business. It's like you have to go through the steps and the growth process to fully understand that so that you can mentor and help others with that resource, if that answered your question.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely does. And I think it's wonderful to use the visualization exercise of seeing all those people in a room because 113 people is a lot of people in a room.
Exactly.
And then you start to realize, whoa, I'm speaking to people. Like, this is not just a number on a screen. These are human beings that are being touched and moved by what I have to say and who are altering what they do or how they think. And they're learning from me. And then you just feel like, whoa, I'm on fire because I've impacted one person.
Exactly.
And it becomes less about the numbers game. And consistency, like you said, is huge. Not just consistency about showing up and building trust, but in your message. Like, what am I here to teach? And I think that that's a really hard thing for beginning entrepreneurs when they're kind of dabbling and like they don't know what they stand for yet. They kind of have a lot of messages going out at once, and it becomes really unclear to any audience that stumbles upon you, like what you're there for, how you're meant to serve them, because you're serving so many different aspects of life. So if you feel like you are growing even slower than you would hope, which you probably are, but that's just part of growing a business. But maybe look at your congruency with your message and the consistency about what you're showing up to present to people, first of all. And then also keep in mind that the people who typically like start a business and then things just take off, I mean, sure, they could be using like strategies, and that is obviously recommended to look into. And it's possible they could have, luck and just be, people are attracted to them in some way. But a lot of times the people who are showing up have had previous YouTube channels, previous businesses. They've been working, maybe not online, but in person for years on this prior. And so when they take that to that sphere, it's like they kind of blow up really quickly and they become the 10-year overnight success. Like you see them become really successful, but maybe they had 5 businesses prior to that.
Exactly.
Maybe they've learned all the skills. Like they've gone through the weathering and the difficult times. And so just be really mindful about any comparison, because I think that that's what actually gets you down. I mean, the numbers can get you down, but it's more so looking at someone else's numbers in comparison to yours.
Absolutely. And one thing I just want to mention is I know for me, when I was starting out, it was like, okay, like when I initially started out, when I initially opened the Divine Dough, it was like strictly tarot. Like I was doing tarot readings and like that was my modality. But then it was like, as I continue to evolve and like I feel like spirit was like, okay, we're going to start you out small and then we're going to continue to evolve and move through, right? And so it was like as I continued to move forward and progress, then in came numerology, then came in like other projects that I'm working on. And then so like you continue, like I said, you allow for that evolvement, and it's kind of like in that expansion and that growth without sort of pinpointing you. So it's like definitely it's important to know your message, but also know that don't get frustrated or shame yourself if you don't know specifically what that is as you open the door. Understand that, because that's that kind of the beauty too of only having a few followers, right? Like you can continue to grow and evolve, and like it's not that big of a deal. And so it's kind of like, don't beat yourself up if you're not fully aware of what it is, what your message is when you first start, because I think both Courtney and I can attest to this. It's like you sort of organically grow into that, within the months and the years to follow. And so, but yeah, so.
Yeah, I'm very, very glad that you mentioned that because I don't want that to be something that inhibits you or holds you back when you're trying to start your business. Like, oh, I don't know what my consistent congruent message is, and I can't start until I have exactly what it is, and I'm stuck in that for the next 5 years. Like, no, you guys, I guarantee you, if you look at anyone who started a business, if they haven't had any business prior, they're going to be evolving. They're going to be changing. Their look is going to change. Their message is going to change. Their audience is going to change. And that's just a part of life and a part of growing. And so don't let that hold you back at any point in time. Just go for it. And then I love that perspective of this is wonderful to have a small following because you do get to dabble and find your voice and find your niche and what makes you you without having this pressure of thousands of eyes on you who are like, why are you suddenly changing this?
Exactly.
Which makes a lot of sense. You grow slowly so that you become more of who you are. And then once people start viewing you, it becomes harder and harder to change. So it's like you become more committed to whatever that is. And that's when people start showing up more. So it is a very natural process. So I'm so glad that you highlighted that.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
Well, this has been such an incredible talk. Thank you so much, Kim. If you guys are interested, please check out her website. So, Kim, will you give everyone the details of YouTube, your website, your Instagram, everything?
My website is just the Divine Dough, DIVINE dough.com. And then Instagram is the same thing, the Divine Dough, but it's the period divine period dough. And then YouTube, I don't know because they give you like that long handle, but if you just like search the Divine Dough, I'm sure you'll find me. So, and I can send you the
Yeah,
links, Courtney, too, if you want to post them. But
they'll definitely be in the show notes, guys. So check them out. And then, Kim, what can people expect from you? So, what are you currently working on? And tell them about your numerology reports because you guys, she's done one for me and they are so spot on and so fun to look at it because it's like a very complementary science to astrology.
yeah, it's actually creepy how much associated with astrology it is. It's crazy. It's kind of like the way I believe is like that we sort of wrote, like we created a contract, our souls created contracts before they came here, and it was like, this is what we want to experience, this is what the expansion and the growth that we want to overcome and move through. And so, and of course we have free will that allows us to make the choices that determine like how we move through them. But so for numerology, what's so fascinating about it is like we're each given like a life path number that allows us to move through life. I mean, that number is with you throughout life. And so it allows you to move through those energies, face those challenges. When you move out of alignment, then you face challenges to move back into alignment and that sort of thing. And so what's so fascinating about the numerology reports is you can look back, like for me, like I'm 43, so I can look back over my life and be like, whoa, I can so see like how those challenges came into play and like how that was helping me move to where I am exactly at this moment. But for my YouTube channel, I do things a little bit differently. I take your life path number and then I incorporate tarot into it because I really like using the channeled messages. But for your numerology report, it's really kind of more scientific. We look at the energies of those specific numbers that come into your chart. And so we look at, there's a whole bunch of numbers that we look at, but we look at your life path number, we look at your destiny number, which is how you show up and how you bring your gifts to the world, or how you will feel best bringing your gifts to the world. We look at your birthday number, your soul number, your personality number. We look at your house number because where you live, the number of your house holds an energy. Like all of these numbers hold an energetic balance basically. And so it's like when you're out of balance with that energy, you face certain challenges to move you back into alignment. We also look at your karma, if you have past karma, karmic debt, karmic lessons. We look at your major life lessons so you can see like what lessons you'll be facing throughout your lifetime. How they show up are not, I can't tell you that, but like you'll get an idea in a sense for like what that will sort of look like. And then we have 3 major life cycles that we go through in our lifetime. And so I look at that. I look at your maturity number. Your maturity number is something where you move into that around 35 and then it's like locked and loaded at 50. And it sort of, you work in tandem with that energy along with your life path number. And so I look at that. We look at what else? Gosh, there's so much. Yeah, it's like a 12-page report. And then I also look at the tarot number or the tarot card that's associated with that life path number. I look at your chakra that's associated with your life path number, your what else? There's so much, but yeah, I actually have a sample on my website if anybody's interested. And again, it's done specific to your energy. So I look at your birthday and then your legal name and your house number. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty intense. And mostly when people get when my clients receive the numerology report, what it is the most feedback I've gotten is that it's confirmation and someone's even told me it's given them motivation. And so again, it brings you back to yourself because you can see wow, I can see for me how my choices have moved me forward and then okay, this is why I present myself this way or people see me this way or this is how, again, it's so tied in with similar to astrology in a lot of ways, but I love it because it's such a great divination tool for bringing you back to yourself and your intuition. So
Yeah, just a quick note on that. She gave me a numerology report, and it was really inspiring to me because there was a lot of eights in there, and I've always been really fascinated with business and with making money, and I just think it's so fun and exciting. And to see that come alive through my numbers, which eight is like very much like I guess what would you call an eight
eight
energy?
energy is definitely like that business minded leader, that powerhouse, that abundance mindset, the go getter, definitely like a pioneer. I mean, Courtney is definitely the epitome, and she has so many eights in her chart. Oh my God. I was like, what? But, and you can see that in the way that she presents herself and the leader that she is. And so it's yeah, eights. When I do my report, when I do my videos on YouTube, I usually spend more time on eights just because the energy is so intense, and also eights have a lot more challenges in the way that they have to overcome. And so yeah, it's just there's a lot that goes into eight, so respect.
Yeah, it was really nice to get your report because it's just another layer of being able to understand yourself and then also to feel like I can step into that leadership role because I've always felt that, but to see that reflected back to me almost like gives me permission to fully embody that. So it's like I I feel more like a powerhouse. I feel more like a business leader because you're giving me that sign that's saying, yeah, that's actually in your chart. Like that's actually part of who you are. And it's not just in your head.
Yeah.
And that's been a really, really for me. So I hope that you guys get your own numerology report. You will see so much open up about yourself that you already know deep inside, I'm sure, but there also are new revelations that come through, especially when it comes to the energies and the numbers that will come later in life for you. So it's even a tool that you'll be able to use throughout your life. So strongly recommend it at thedivinedoe.com. And thank you so much, Kim. It's been incredible to have you
Thank
on.
you so much, Courtney. You're amazing.